Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with all the Flat Earth Debate pre-show and after-show goodness. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal and crypto link in the info box below the video, and a Patreon link as well, thanks to Anti-Flat Earth, so shout out to him. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you're currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by, let's have a little look. Who's this? AJM, I think his name is, Sleeping Warrior, Paul, Flat and Earth, Chris, Chocolate Saying, and Arwin. Good to have you all.
Woo!
Good morning. Good morning.
Did he get cold?
Hello, all.
Yo. Did Alan survive, or was he been cold?
I kicked him before the end of the last show.
Just shitting around as he does.
Yeah, it got to the point in the last show where basically Alan was asked, what's the gas pressure that we definitely do have here on Earth pressing upon at the top, and rather than answer the question, he just wanted to talk about the oceans, and the whole point of the question is to prove his fake medium of outer space, which cannot possibly exist. You can't have gas pressure without a container. There is nothing for it to press upon in their bullshit world of Sphere Earth. What it should be pressing on, a container, is actually a vacuum, a much lower pressure system that it would disperse into, leaving us with no gas pressure, meaning that the outer space, they claim, is where they take the pictures from, is a fake medium. It cannot possibly exist. It's a second law of thermodynamics violation. You can't have gas pressure without something to press upon, the necessary antecedent, a container. And Earth, in space, does not have that. It has a vacuum, rather than a container, making space fake. Anyway, anybody mind if I'd go through the housekeeping? We didn't go through it on the last show. Any signs of curvature, gentlemen?
Just before we do, Nathan, just let me give an analogy for why the reasoning for this gas pressure is important. If I didn't kill the guy, if I didn't murder him, right, and I said, well, I didn't murder him, I was away on holiday at the time. If you just took me at face value and accepted it because it sounded reasonable, then you'd be a dick, wouldn't you? Because I could have killed him, but you'd have to check it to make sure first. Why would anybody accept that? Well, the lack of evidence for gravity, the necessary thing that holds the atmosphere onto the Earth, if that evidence is missing, then the evidence is, it's like saying that I was on holiday at the time and just not checking it. Because if you don't check that you're on holiday, you've got no alibi, right? You could have killed him. But not accepting gravity as an issue is a fundamental failure to appreciate evidence. Sorry, Nathan, carry on.
I didn't actually hear a word of that. My kid's making a whole load of noise. Hopefully the panel will react, though. I'm sure it was a great point, Anthony.
It was amazing.
It was a good point. And I just wanted to add that it's so funny how they continue to fall down the same rabbit hole. They use the same excuses. So you ask, how do we have gas pressure without a container? And then they go straight to, oh, how do we have the gradient? Well, then how do we have the gas pressure at all without a container? And then it goes right to, oh, but we have oceans that don't have a full container. It's like, wait a minute, we're not talking about water, guys. We're talking about gas. And it's like the same again and again and again. It's like, I don't know. It's like they're NPCs just falling into the same trap.
Yep. You can't have gas pressure without a container. You can't have a disequilibrium without a membrane of some kind. If you're going to claim gravity, then I'll claim I didn't kill him because I was on holiday and no one's going to check my evidence to support that I was on holiday. So if you believe gas pressure without checking the evidence for it and realizing there is none, then you're just basically allowing someone to get away with murder. That's literally how stupid it is.
Yeah, there's no scientific evidence of gravity, and if you're to assert that this 1 in 150 millionth, if you apply Newtonian Cavendish gravity, or 1 in 50 billionth if you apply the bending of space-time, trillionth if you apply the bending of space-time, then it's not going to defy the second law of thermodynamics. Hot will still flow to cold. The gas will still expand into whatever given space it is offered. That is what will happen, and that cannot be the case. If you have a vacuum of space, then we would not have gas pressure. It would disperse instantaneously into a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. I assure you, the second law does hold up, and unless someone can show me a violation of the second law of thermodynamics, which space is, then I'm not prepared to accept that there is a thing called outer space where they can apparently take pictures from. There is no outer space, it's a fake medium. It defies the second law of thermodynamics.
Especially while this ball happens to be rotating at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator and moving 66,000 miles per hour around the sun. It's nonsensical. Sorry.
Yeah, it's doublespeak of the highest order. They want the atmosphere to be both tethered to the Earth, in the case of the planes that don't follow any or exhibit any effects of the Coriolis effect, and then actually be detached, a second reference frame, when they want to claim that the Earth is spinning underneath the atmosphere and use it as a proof that we're spinning. So you go, okay, you've got a pendulum that demonstrates we've got two reference frames. You've got planes that don't exhibit any Coriolis effect. How do you square that circle? Well, we've only got one reference frame. Well, that's doublespeak. If you've only got one reference frame, you don't have a Coriolis effect. And if you don't have a second reference frame, then you don't have an Earth turning underneath the atmosphere. And if you don't have something to demonstrate the Earth's turning, it's not turning. It's just stationary as it presents itself. But they want to have it tethered. And in tethering it, it doesn't hold the atmosphere that's tethered and non-tethered next to a vacuum. It's just still going to dissipate and follow the laws of entropy and dissipate into that vacuum. Without the balloon, there is no pressure. Conspiracy Cats, 2018.
That sounds like a saying. Somebody must have said that. That sounds like someone famous, Nathan.
Yeah, Conspiracy Cats, 2018. Or Wiggles, the gas would fill the space, 2019.
Can I play devil's advocate just for a second?
Can I say something? I mean, maybe is it me? Am I crazy? But they want to say that the pendulum, which is actually attached to the Earth, right? Because it would have to be attached to the Earth to function correctly as a pendulum, right? So that's actually attached, but that's a different reference frame. But the helicopter with plane, these things that are not actually attached to the Earth, are the same reference frame? Like, that's backward speak.
Well, they need it to be the same reference frame because it does not exhibit Coriolis. So if you were to take off in a helicopter and maintain your position above the air that you are in and just hover, then the Earth should turn underneath you if you're to have a Coriolis effect. Same with the planes. The planes take off and the Earth rotates underneath if you've got two reference frames. None of these things exhibit the Coriolis effect. The planes aren't deviating, they're not taking different durations, the Earth's not rotating underneath hovering helicopters. This doesn't happen. There is only one reference frame. Well, it's not a non-inertial reference frame, it's just not turning. It's just stationary. So to square the circles of the non-exhibits of Coriolis effect by saying it's a single reference frame, well, then you don't have a Coriolis effect. But they just go round and round and round in circles. That's all they can do. But I hope that the people who are smart enough and watching understand that when they're not conceding, it's not that they've got a winning argument. They just won't concede because they're religious zealots.
And they won't ever concede. They can't concede it.
Can I play devil's advocate just for a second on the point or the gas pressure?
Go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
I remember something I talked when I was on several shows ago before the holidays, and Anthony was talking about if you have a vacuum and you remove all the air or all the air out of the vacuum, that really hydrogen or helium, whatever, would settle at the bottom of that container at one point.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Now, if that's the case, if buoyancy and density is our gradient that we're living in, there is a potential that at the higher levels there could be, because of that buoyancy and density at the highest levels that we cannot reach, there could be lower pressure according to buoyancy and density, I would think.
Yeah.
There could also be liquids there.
Yeah, lower.
Got...
What would there be at the top? Did you say lower? What? Sorry.
Pressure.
Oh,
Pressure,
that would need something to press
density.
upon still. That definitely still needs something to press upon then. If you've got pressure, it's going to need to press. Lower pressure, you say? Oh, well, that's still pressure.
Well, I mean, it's like there. What I know, what Alan B, I guess, is what he was saying is like at the lower pressure in the ocean, that pressure is higher than at the top. So, and as we do know, that's why hot air balloons, as they go up, or not hot air balloons, but the balloons, they do pop because the pressure gets less.
Sure, but a liquid, is a different state. So a liquid isn't trying to press out in all directions randomly, is it? It's not got any bonds. If you're talking about gas, it's randomly trying to spread in all directions to fill the container that it's in. And if there's a never-ending vacuum, it's just going to spread out and fill that, which is our argument against it. I've got no argument against there being a gradient, and it makes logical sense that there would be, given that all of the cycles that we experience do happen at the ground level. So they're going to create more gases at that point and dissipate as you go up. But there's still pressure there.
It's just less. I got you. Right.
Well, if there's pressure there, even just less, it can't be a pressure unless, by definition, in their own maths or science, it's exerting its pressure on the walls of its container. So the question is, well, what is the container if there's a low pressure there? Because it's still a pressure. No, but it's very, very low. Yeah, it might be very low, but we still got a pressure.
Well, and I think, honestly, the other side of the coin, I mean, I agree with you. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate a little bit. And the other side is if the Earth is spinning, then at the equator, the centrifugal forces or the angular momentum, whatever the right term is for that, would literally take those upper molecules of air and literally throw them away.
Because of a centrifuge.
Right.
And the biggest ones would move first. So if the biggest ones are moving first, that means that you'd have to have an inversion in the atmosphere where the densest molecules are pushing outwards because they've got the most mass, and they will be displacing the lighter molecules that will be forced to the floor, because that's what a centrifuge does. The heavier stuff gets put to the edge and the lighter stuff gets put to the middle, because that is a centrifuge. But that would mean that the lightest the atmospheric gases would be on our surface. That would be helium and hydrogen, and then nitrogen and oxygen would be up at the top. That's not what we see. So we know that that can't be the case.
Right. So there's a disproof for the spinning globe right there, just from that.
But it can only have a centrifuge if it's pushing against something to give it the backwards resistance. Otherwise, it would just disperse immediately into space.
Correct. I'm glad you had that on. That was going to be my addition as well. So yes, you've got to imply that there's a wall of a container on the outside of that centrifuge to cause the heavier gases to go to the outside, and as you say, the lighter gases to come to the surface. Or if there's nothing for it to press upon, now that's given that it's a single reference frame tethered to the Earth with gravity, so you've got the atmosphere held on, but spinning in a single reference frame, you still have the centrifugal forces that would throw the gas out into space even quicker. All of these would be negated by entropy, though. In other words, it would instantaneously disperse into the vacuum.
But this is the kind of thing that the average physics teacher doesn't tell kids. Probably has never thought about it. But now we have Conspiracy Cats, who is a physics teacher, to try and answer some of these issues. And he won't come on the show because he knows he can't answer them. But he pretends that Nathan's a nasty person and a bully. He's done it. He's done
it for Arwin. So kudos to Arwin. Arwin had him on his show and asked the question verbatim: how do we have gas pressure without a container? And he gave a very long answer that confirmed that you cannot have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon. In order to have gas pressure, you need something to press upon. Well, thank you very much, Conspiracy Cats, for that very, very clear explanation that defies space as a vacuum. Wonderful. Thank you to Arwin for asking the question. Thank you to Conspiracy Cats for answering it. Shame you couldn't answer one of the 367 times I asked, but there we go.
Yeah, he still calls Ranty for proving curvature of the Earth.
Well, he's proven that space is fake. So well done, Flaps. You've proved space is fake.
Could you give me the definition for entropy, Nathan?
When you say definition, what entropy is the effect of things flowing from, say, for the sake of argument, a high pressure system into a low pressure system, or hot flowing into cold. These things that naturally occur, and why? Well, I don't know. It's a law.
Why don't you give us the definition?
No, I mean like the units. Like, you know, like speed is distance over time. Like, what are the units for entropy?
Who cares? Hot flows.
Who cares? You just said.
Sorry,
that,
I hadn't finished talking. If you talk over me, if you talk over me more than twice in the show Unorthodox, you're just not going to stay. When I start talking, shut your mouth. Okay?
There's a delay, Nathan. So
I don't
it doesn't
care.
happen perfectly.
I don't. If there's a delay, get some better equipment, you cheapskate.
Yeah, Nathan, that's not possible. You live on.
Yeah, there's no delay. I hear you perfectly clearly. So I'm talking over you because you've interrupted me. Hot flows to cold always. That's entropy.
So you don't know the units associated with entropy.
No,
Why?
and I don't need to.
You know the units
Sorry,
associated
you've
with
asked me a question. You've
No.
done it again. You've made a statement. You've
Are
made
you
an assertion
joking?
about what I do or don't know, and before you've given me a chance to respond, you've continued talking. Were you not educated by your mother about how to have a conversation?
Like I told you before, there's a delay, Nathan. So you don't know the units for entropy. You know the units for
Doesn't have
speed.
any units. It's an effect, you moron.
Unorthodox.
Darwin, it has units.
So I'll say it again. Hot flows to cold always. That is entropy. High
No, it's
pressure.
not.
Yes, it
Pressure
is.
to non-pressure.
Yes. That is the law. That is the effect. The cause is not determinable. It will happen always. It is a natural law. Okay?
So what are the units, right? You can disprove it.
Who cares? Sorry, why do you want them? What's the point that you're going to make?
Because he wants to try and mathematicize it.
That's what I was just gonna say.
No, I'm
like,
just-
you guys,
I'm- no, I was just-
you guys need math to be reality so bad that he can't give you a definition of entropy. You can just accept it. You have to actually, you need a formula for it to even start to make sense to you. Do you realize how
He's using it to
demented
prove
that
a
is?
point. He's using it to prove a point, Chocolate
Do
saying.
you know what
He's
entropy
saying
is?
he believes in entropy.
Is that a real thing? Is it a real effect?
That's not what I'm saying. Right, every time he does this and misrepresents me, I'll shut him up, tell the audience where he's wrong. So, why would you misrepresent me like this? Let's just establish before I do this. Why are you misrepresenting what I say?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
What did I misrepresent?
This is like talking to a complete buffoon.
The right word is Muppet.
You're using entropy to prove your point. You're saying because entropy is real, we can't have space. So if you're using entropy to prove your point, you believe in entropy. Chocolate Sane is saying that you
There
don't.
you go.
believe.
There he's done it again. No, I do not believe in entropy. It is a, say it for the second time, natural law. No belief required because, and to answer your question and define it, hot flows to cold always.
So what about like a refrigerator or a heat pump? Those are opposite things, right? They're flowing heat in a different direction.
You know what always means, right?
Always means always.
Yeah. So whatever example that you're going to question him with, always does the same thing. Heat will always go to cold. Pressure will always go to non-pressure.
You will never show me an example of setting down a cup of coffee and finding that when you come back, it's suddenly boiling. It will dissipate its heat to the colder environment by way of entropy. That's what entropy is.
So you don't know the units. I mean, just say it, Nathan. If you don't know the actual units, the actual real definition of entropy, just say it.
What the hell is it with units?
I've asked you
There
what's
is
the
a measurement
purpose.
for the.
Sorry, the point of the entropy point is that you can't have a gas pressure next to a vacuum. That's the point. Now, in order to make that point, I don't need to know any units. I just need to know that gas pressure will disperse into a vacuum. That's what I need to know. I do know it, and I don't know the units. Does that get you a win, or is this a straw man? I waited minimum 4 seconds for you to claim you had a delay, so I'll claim retard. Yeah, retard. Answer me, retard.
No, of course not.
Just to
Oh,
reiterate
if
that.
you how to measure it. Repeat it. Nathan, I'm talking
Yeah, straw man.
house.
No answer, never
If you
an
need to measure a
answer,
house,
always
you
a
need to know the
straw man,
units, right?
always moving
You need to
on
know how to
the next
actually measure it.
subject.
You don't need to know any maths. Listen.
Don't listen to
So
the
you
argument
can
in
measure.
Orthodox.
You can measure entropy. You can actually measure it.
We're not trying to measure it. We're just observing what it does, and we don't need maths to observe.
He interrupted me, Arwen. I don't know what he said. I was in the middle of saying something.
Okay,
Saying
fine.
something,
So
he's
you can
talking
measure
shit.
entropy. Sorry, whoever's playing music, can you
Yeah,
stop?
but if you're talking about it, you need to know what the measurement is.
Gilder, mute or I'm gonna kick you.
I've kicked him out already. You can't play music
Like
here.
if you're talking about building a house,
Yeah. We're not talking about building a house. We're talking about space, being a fake medium.
Y'all do nothing but dance around subjects like Fred Astaire, man. It's
I mean, that's it
ridiculous.
there that you have no. You don't have a clue how's your entropy. You don't have a clue what you're talking about.
Unorthodox. We don't need to have a mathematical expression to define.
What am I
we see.
dancing around?
We see hot goes to cold.
About
We see
what
pressure goes
it
to non-pressure.
is. It is
So-
there.
Given that
Sorry.
you were
Doesn't
unable-
matter
So
how it
I'll ask my
works,
question
it's
again. He didn't
there.
answer me. He's now ignored me. So, me knowing the units, does that get you a win? Oh, someone kicked him.
Oh, he left.
Probably Arwen.
No,
No,
I think he
he
might
left.
have just fell from my internet. Oh no, did you kick him?
No, he's still there. He left.
Oh, he's just fell from internet problems. He was breaking up a little bit. Well, we'll
And
hold
even though
fire on that
I
conversation.
have a mobile problem too that sometimes it'll drop. I don't have a delay the way he's talking about, and I'm in America too. So
Yeah, just convenient bullshit.
Anthony,
Yes,
is there?
I am, but I'm listening because the dogs are trying to get my attention. So I'm listening, but go on.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, so if we can, I'd like to circle back to your HUD display discussion that you had, I don't know, yesterday.
About
'Cause I had some,
go on.
well,
which
about
topic?
the horizon, the artificial horizon, or the long horizon line versus the nose and all that. So I was listening, and I just, after a while, I kind of was thinking about it, and your point, it was the horizon line on the HUD display should line up with the real horizon, and it doesn't. And they say, well, that's because Earth's a ball, so the horizon falls away as the artificial plain HUD horizon rises. So the question
Yeah.
I had was, why does it do
Hang
that?
on, did you see the picture though that was presented? The picture that was presented had the straight line going across, which was the artificial horizon, but its nose was angled up by the same amount from the actual horizon. And my position was, well, if the nose wasn't aimed up, then it would bring the actual horizon and the green line, white line horizon back down, because you would compensate for the tilt of the nose and bring it back down. And that is a valid point. He didn't accept it, but we couldn't see what happens when you put the nose on the horizon, because technically you start to descend, which I'm fine with. I don't care that the plane starts descending. What I care about is whether or not it lines up when you put the nose on the horizon and point it at the horizon. That's the point we were trying to get.
Right, and I got that, but the thing that I don't get, and I'm screen sharing, I don't know if Nathan can show it or you can see it if you click on my icon. The thing that I don't get then is, why is the artificial horizon, why is it higher than the quote-unquote real horizon? That either means the artificial horizon is wrong and the real horizon is here, or
Okay.
it's right.
No. There's an extra step that you're not missing, that you're not seeing. Can you see above the long white, long yellow line? There is like what looks like wings. It's like a V with
Yeah.
like. That's the angle
Right.
of the pitch of the nose of the plane. And if you'll notice, the gap between that and the line below is pretty much the same as the gap between that and the line and the actual horizon below the line. So if you were to bring that the pitch of the nose down, the horizon, because the plane's physically tilting when you tilt the plane, tilt the nose back down, it's going to bring that artificial horizon, the white line, in line with the actual horizon. So what's happening is the plane's flying slightly nose up, and that's what that little crest or V-shaped thing is. But if you were to put that back down again onto the horizon, the white line would match the actual horizon. Do you understand?
Yeah, I get that. I think you're missing my point though. So I'll have to go here in a minute, but for sake of argument, let's say this plane is flying at quote unquote level flight, right? Yeah, the nose is up, but it's flying level, right? It's maintaining, whatever, 30,000 feet altitude.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say I were to ask you then, which is correct? Is the plane electronic horizon correct, or is this horizon correct?
No, the electronic horizon is a compensation for that's the angle the plane's. That's the way the plane is like traveling, right? But because it's nose up, it's artificially high. So if you bring the nose
it's wrong.
down,
so it's wrong.
No, it's compensating for the fact that the nose is up. That's what it's showing you. Because if you were to put the line, if you were to put the line in the direction that the nose is pointing, it would be where the V is above. Well, that's clearly not the direction of travel, but that's the way it's pointing. So what it's saying is you're traveling you're traveling in a level line, but what you're seeing is compensated because you're looking up. That's all it's saying.
Right, but that means that if, let's say, this was fog and you couldn't see this quote unquote real horizon, okay?
Yeah.
And all you had was this display.
That's what I asked him to do. I said, could you show us what happens when you level off from climbing and you get to your level altitude that you're flying level at, and then then compensate for the nose coming back down and see, does it bring the line down to the horizon or does it keep the line there? It'll bring the line down.
But you don't even have to do that. My point is, then this line is wrong. If you can't see this to know where this actually, quote unquote, this real horizon supposedly is, and you're relying on the electronics, right? Because it's like, let's say you're in a storm, okay? You're relying on this. Otherwise, how do you know that the real horizon is, say, 2 or 3 degrees below it? You don't. There's no indicator. This is the real horizon.
Okay, well, maybe that is the real horizon, but on both models, the horizon appears lower because when we had this was a massive fight yesterday with Phil not telling the truth about the reality, but we are looking down from very less air into more dense air, and that density gradient, because we're looking down, makes the horizon look lower on both models anyway. The issue is by how much should it be on a ball compared to how much should it be on a plane, on a level plane. So I accept what you're saying, your point, but it doesn't imply that there is drop caused by curvature unless you want it to be that way, because it is explained by an alternative explanation and it can be argued either way, and you just don't know which one's right.
Right there. So the baller argument is this line is that this horizon would rise to this line if the Earth were flat. So they're saying that the HUD display is showing you what
that's assuming there's no atmosphere. It only works on a model that's got no atmosphere to it.
Right. So my question to them would be, why is the HUD display showing me where a flat Earth should be? Shouldn't it be showing me where the round Earth should be so that my instrument and my real round Earth?
Oh, I see your point. If you're tracking to the leading edge of the sphere, then you need to know where that leading edge is. Whereas they're saying, well, let's say Anthony argues that potentially on a clearer day you might see to that line if you could see on an infinitely clear day, which is essentially what you're saying with no atmosphere, right, Anthony? Well, essentially, Chris is pointing out that
when Nathan got it and I got it at the same time. I see your point.
Right.
So it's showing you the arbitrary point that your eye creates where the land meets the sky if it's a plane.
Right.
Yeah.
So either the
ball, that horizon has to be dropping away from you. There's no way that you could know that off of this display.
Right. So either the display is wrong or this is wrong. Which is it?
Good question. I don't know. And to be honest, I'm not sure that, because when I was asking questions to the aviation guy, Captain, I'm calling him because he's got a really long name. When I was asking him questions, he was answering, and I could tell that he was smiling whilst I was answering him. So I could tell that he wasn't being totally honest with me. I could tell he was trying to pull a fast one in my interpretation. So I'm not sure he's the right guy to ask anyway. But you make a valid point, and I don't know the answer, and I'd be guessing if I tried.
Yeah, but Anthony, remember after about, I don't know, an hour and a half or so, he basically came out and was just like, look, I'm in the air. I see the Earth as a sphere. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
You know?
Cool. Well, I'm glad you got it.
It almost sounded like Jose just saying, I believe that's curvature. You know, that's it. That's where I stand, you know? But yeah, Chris, definitely a good point. And I was trying to think about that yesterday. Like, how could this be the horizon if the horizon is supposedly dropping away from you?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
All right, cool. Hey, I got to go. Anthony, if you have a show, if you do your Discord show later, I might try and join, but I got to go for now.
Cool, man. Catch you in a bit. Yeah, Nathan, you brought up a good point there. What do you think?
I think it's an excellent point. I'm just on my hands and knees cleaning up a drink that my kid spilled everywhere.
In the absence of Nathan and his availability of time, I'll just say that if you listen back to the Hangout, what I'll do is I'll remove the Hangouts each day because I don't want loads of them filling up my video section. So if you do want to see it, download it before it goes because it does get replaced. But you can hear him. You can literally hear that he's smiling when I say, so when the nose is pointing up and it's being compensated for by the same amount of gap that's below the horizon, that's the reason why you're claiming horizon dip. But it's not horizon dip, it's nose tilting up that's giving you the perception that it's horizon dip. And you can tell that he's smirking. You can interpret that any way you wish.
Anthony, that's just because a lot of ballers find this pretty comedic.
Well, that's because a lot of ballers are not able to critically analyze evidence contrary to their opinion and are dicks.
Well, dude's a pilot, so...
Just to just laugh.
Yeah, but he was smiling. He was a pilot that was smiling whilst answering me. I knew that he realised that I'd spotted the problem with what his assertion was. You might not have spotted it, and you might think I'm a dick because of it, but the fact that he was smiling tells me that he realises that I spotted it. So
we've got a new guest. Sorry to interrupt. Is Alexander? Have we said hello to you?
Yeah, yes, I'm here. I'm here. Wait a minute. I have to.
Good to have you.
Close the hangout.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I disconnected earlier. My connection dropped off. You know, I just like to reiterate: if you guys don't even know the definition of entropy, you don't have a clue what you're talking about.
Oh, we're back on this, are we? So the question is still the same: is it the case that not knowing mathematics for entropy changes that hot flows to cold always?
Entropy is defined via mathematics. That's where it comes from.
Sorry, no, I've defined it verbally on multiple occasions, as have other panel members. So we've defined it. And the consequence of the definition, hot flows to cold always, high pressure to low pressure, that will always occur. So if you've got gas pressure, it will disperse into a vacuum. That's the point of making it. Defining it mathematically makes no difference.
What about friction, Nathan?
We're talking about entropy.
Which way is the heat? Which way is the heat flowing in that situation?
Talking about entropy and space. So how does this prove that you can have gas pressure next to a vacuum?
It doesn't. It just shows
so it's a straw man. So it's a straw man. So it's a straw man.
You don't know what you're talking about.
So it's a straw man. I'm going to ask you again. Just admit it. Let's see if he's... Yesterday, you got a minor discretion out of Anthony and demanded a concession for it. Now, fact, this is a straw man. I want you to say, yes, it's a straw man, and have some intellectual honesty.
We're talking about entropy, Nathan.
Yeah.
So
in regards to whether or not you can have gas pressure next to a vacuum.
The definition, the pinnacle definition.
No, we're talking about whether or not you can have gas pressure next to a vacuum. Not the definition. The definition, hot flows to cold always, that's defining what entropy is. And that effect, that natural law...
True, though,
shut up!
Hot doesn't always
shut
flow
up!
cold.
that natural law would mean that space is fake. So we've already asked, how does this establish that you can have gas pressure without a container? And you've already explained that it doesn't. Therefore, it is a straw man, and you won't admit it because you're intellectually dishonest. Right, Unorthodox?
No, I'm just trying to stay on topic here.
Yeah, on topic about space and whether or not you can have gas pressure without a container. Your ad hominem attack on me about whether or not I'm mathematically literate in entropy does not address whether or not you can have gas pressure without a container. It is ipso facto, therefore, a straw man.
Well,
I'm just talking about the definition. It's
no, you're talking about straw mans. You're bringing up a logical fallacy to set fire to. So hold on, Arwen, hold on.
Doesn't always flow to cold.
Hold on. You have bought a straw man here. Whether or not I understand the mathematics of entropy is a straw man that you're going to set fire to.
I'm not talking about the mathematics. I'm talking about the.
Yeah, you are. You have said you don't know anything you're talking about. You don't understand the formulas. So now you're just lying. Now you're just lying.
To demonstrate your understanding of the formulas and how they operate.
Yeah, so that's a straw man. I'll say it again. That's a straw man. Whether or not I know the maths for it doesn't change that you can't have gas pressure without a container. You're talking over me. Your last chance. Talk over me again, I'll kick you out. So this does not change. The point is you can't have gas pressure without a container. My understanding of the mathematics does not change that point. It is therefore a straw man. So if you highlight that I don't know the maths, it doesn't mean that the point has therefore been won. You've just set fire to a straw man. And that's the bit I want you to have a little minor, tiny amount of intellectual honesty about here, that you've come with a straw man again.
No, I'm talking about something directly pertinent to what we're talking about here. I'm not talking about your understanding. I'm not done talking. I'm not done talking. Don't interrupt me. I just about got kicked because I'm interrupting people. Let me finish my point. I'm not talking about your understanding of the mathematics. I'm not asking you to use the mathematics. I'm just saying, give me the units. Speed is distance.
Oh, so I'm not asking you for the mathematics. I'm not asking you for the units. Now I'm asking you to give me the units.
Wow, unorthodox. You are retarded, bro. I'm not
so you are asking for the units. So you are asking for the maths.
Are you kidding?
So you are asking for the units. You are asking for the maths. This is a straw man.
Do you even understand what you're saying when you speak? No. Unorthodox?
So this is a straw man.
What's the problem with what I'm saying?
So simple. It's so simple that we can spend hours talking around.
I'm just going to take a vote. Who votes we kick him?
Simple.
Who votes we kick him? He's just an asshole. He's literally just said in the same. He's used double speak in the same breath. So he said, "I'm not asking you for the formulas. I'm not asking you for the maths. I just want you to give me the maths for it." So he's literally double speaking in one sentence. At this point, he's got so little to offer. I'm tempted to kick him. What do you think?
I did it.
He's been doing it since he came in here. First thing he said when we gave him the definition of entropy, oh, well, do you know the math behind the entropy? And we say we don't care about the math. Oh, but it's about the definition. I mean, this dude has no idea what he's talking about.
I'll tell you what we should do is, I don't think we should kick him just yet. I think what we should do is offer him an option. I think we should say to him, explain how you don't realize that there is a contradiction in the Coriolis argument for yesterday, and we'll tell you the maths.
He's already gone, but seriously, he just said no. Hot doesn't always flow to cold.
Like, I honestly think the guy is deliberately sent in here by a demon inside his head to obfuscate points no matter what. That's what I honestly think.
You're right, Riley. I think you're right.
I don't think that's the case. I think what's happening is when he comes in and says, yeah, me and my girlfriend, we joke about how bad this makes me look as I'm talking with you lowlives who are stupid. And the reality is the complete converse of that. He, in this arena, is the retard. He has no vague clue what he's talking about and double speaks his way through the standard rhetoric. That's all he can do. He's got the standard rhetoric. He might even know it. Maybe he can repeat it perfectly sometimes, but it doesn't make the standard rhetoric work when you have us picking it apart and pointing out the fallacious parts of the argument. And when we point them out, he doesn't understand the explanation of the fallacious parts of the argument. All he can do is repeat it, like a parrot, because that's what he's been trained to be in school. A parrot. Just parrot it. And if you get challenged, parrot it again, because that's what he's got. Just repeat it. Oh, it's been challenged. Don't address what's been challenged. That would require some degree of intelligence. Just repeat.
He's like conspiracy cats. I don't think conspiracy cats can get past this stuff either, and that's why he has to stay away. It's not because Nathan's horrible or grumpy or whatever. It's because he can't. He knows he can't. He can't. As a teacher, he can't address it. But he won't admit that he can't address it. He has to blame Nathan because of his own failures.
Yeah, I like it when that happens, though. Yeah, you blame me, conspiracy cats. You blame me for your failure. I'll quote you when I disprove space. Without the balloon, there is no pressure. So, do we have a balloon around Earth? No, we've got a vacuum. So, according to conspiracy cats, without that membrane, without that balloon, without something to press upon, there's no gas pressure. But yet we do have gas pressure. So conspiracy cats might want to blame me for his failures. I'll quote him in my success when debunking space. So thanks, conspiracy cats. While you might not like me, I applaud your debunking of space.
But what he actually does, Nathan, is he realizes his audience is stupid and will believe anything he says because he's a teacher. So he runs with his assertion anyway, regardless of its truth. Then you got a question, well, what's wrong? Who's wrong here? Is it right that he carries on pushing his narrative when he realizes he can't defend it? Or is Nathan actually wrong originally for saying that he debunks space? And if you think that space can exist the way that Conspiracy Cats tells you, great. Well, everybody else realizes it can't because you can't have a gas pressure without a container.
Yeah, and he knows it.
He does.
They're just Wiggles. But they
Wiggles
just
doesn't
rinse
know
and
his own
repeat.
name.
Rinse and repeat. That's all they can do. Just say the same thing again because it must be true. I've been taught it. So the fact that you have a rebuttal, well, just repeat the same thing again.
I think they engage in Muppet vision.
I like it. I like holding their toes to the fire. There's certain subjects like the Coriolis where they will have gone out and got the double speak explanation. And in their mind, when they got it, they went, oh, okay, that makes sense then. But when they come here and go round and round in circles with one reference frame, two reference frames, one reference frame, two reference frames, it's got to mess with their heads. Well, I like that. It's like, yeah, good. Keep double speaking around the nonsense contradiction, telling me it's not a contradiction, and then telling me we've got 1,500-mile-an-hour planes. It's like, oh, the tables have turned then. Back in the day when everyone held true to the AE map and was saying, oh, yeah, this is the world. Not that I ever did that. But flat earthers, hey, Paul. Oh, same guy, sorry. Yeah, when flat earthers was doing that, and they were like, oh, show us the 1,500-mile-an-hour planes that makes this part on this map strawman work. Oh, right. Let's see the 1,500-mile-an-hour planes that work with your Coriolis effect. Seems a bit dumb now, doesn't it, your assertion, Zinder, if you're watching? You think you've got 1,500-mile-an-hour planes? What an idiot.
Yeah, I just flew to Phoenix, and I definitely was not moving at 1,500 miles per hour. So
you'd have to repeat that again, Chocolate.
But I just flew to Phoenix, and I'm pretty sure I was not moving at 1,500 miles per hour due to the rotation of the Earth. Because at that point, maybe I should have gotten to Phoenix in, I don't know, an hour, maybe less.
Yeah, that was priceless yesterday. Zinder's like, oh no, I can't show you a 1,500-mile-an-hour plane because obviously when the plane goes up in the air and you're watching it, well, you can't prove that. It's just happening as it is. It's like, oh yeah, well, where's the passengers that are taking these really stupidly double supersonic flights? They're not real, right? They don't happen. That doesn't happen. The Earth doesn't turn underneath the planes. There are not exhibits of the Coriolis effect demonstrated by planes.
Yeah, let's just remind people the contradiction, right? Coriolis force, they claim that the atmosphere sticks to the Earth. They need that because basically that's... Stop it. That's the explanation for why planes don't go faster in east to west flight. So they need it to be that way. But if that's the case, then they can't have Coriolis. So it's a direct contradiction, and they need to have it both ways. They'll never, ever, ever concede the point, and they will fight it to the bitter end, which is why George comes in and fights it vehemently. But it's also the reason why Idiot yesterday did. And then he comes in today saying, if you don't know the maths, then you can't do entropy. Who cares about maths? Maths is not causative. It's descriptive by nature. His point is invalid, but he worships maths. Maths is his god. That's the problem.
Well, it was just a straw man. So the understanding of the mathematics of entropy does not change that you cannot have gas pressure without a container. And when we get to the point, dragging them kicking and screaming like Alan earlier, to the point where we say, well, what's the pressure pressing upon at the top? Well, who cares about the mathematics at that point? Well, it's not pressing on anything. It's going to be dispersing into the vacuum. That's entropy. That's the point. It doesn't need mathematics. It would be instantaneous, according to an MIT professor. So the MIT guy says entropy would have an instantaneous dispersion of the gas pressure into the container. The vacuum would be filled by the gas. Well, that's completely in contradiction to what they claim is happening in the heliocentric model. You've got this ball with gas on the outside, magically hanging in a vacuum of space. Total nonsense. Fake medium. You can't have gas pressure next to a vacuum. That's nonsense. Oh, right. So, did I need maths there? Sorry. Did anybody need the mathematics in the audience to understand that? Oh, right. Nobody needed the maths to understand that. Right. The gas would disperse. No maths needed. Straw man, basically.
Yeah, the problem with applying maths is that you can make anything appear to be credible if you apply a little bit of maths, because you only need the wrong symbol in the wrong place for a genius to spot it. But if you've planted it intentionally to make it look like that way, because you need to have these maths, then unless you're a genius to spot exactly where the mistake is, and even if you did, they would never admit it because, well, maths is their king.
Well, I keep plugging this, but go and check out how Einstein made the Earth turn on Jeranism channel. In that, he explains, or he's reading Robertson Genesis' work, but he's explaining how the transform equations work, and they're squaring a circle. But the net result of transform equations, you end up with things like, as you get closer to the speed of light, your physicality contracts. You know, the two are the inverse opposite of each other, but it's only born out of a mathematical equation. It's been used to square a circle. I have to go on mute.
So he's got baby issues in background. I've got Tilly issues in my background. For some reason, she wants to play. She's been quiet all morning, minding her own business, being a very good girl. And now I start talking, and she's barking and meowing and basically saying, play with me, I'm awake. Go to sleep.
Got 5 of the panel members.
So.
All right, so
just seems funny to me. Yeah,
can I try to explain how thermodynamics
yeah, just turn you up a bit. Go ahead.
Itself out? Okay. All right. So Quantum Eraser explains thermodynamics as a room that gets messier. The mess is what's considered entropy. The cup of water in the room that evaporates away has achieved entropy or a higher state of disorder. But
why
it's
do you
just
say
a part.
Hold on, Anthony. Just let him get to the end.
Because okay. So the cup of water in the room that evaporates away has achieved entropy or a higher state of disorder because water is more disordered as a gas. You understand that?
No, I wouldn't say it's achieved a high state of disorder. I'd just say it's changed form temporarily. I don't see why why you would class it as disorder.
Well, if it's in a room that's getting messier and the water has gone into a gas and become in a higher state of disorder in this room that's a closed system, it's never going to come back to water, right? It's just going to stay in this state because heat, it's never going to allow it to become water again.
Well, that's assuming a constant temperature that's sufficient
if
to make the water evaporate.
Achieving entropy, if you're in a closed system and the room is achieving entropy, heat is going to be released. That's unusable. So everything is not going to be able to come back down from that state.
Well, yeah, right? Until it reaches equilibrium. So if for the sake of argument, all of the heat of the room is dissipated and you're at 19 degrees in the room, then you're not necessarily going to see all of the water evaporate. But quite the converse, if all the heat's dissipated into the room or dissipated away from the room and you end up at -1, well, it ain't turning into gas then, is it?
Right, and so, but it's gonna die. Everything is gonna be in equilibrium. It's gonna be a death in the room where nothing else. There's gonna be no more energy in the room. Usable
I like
energy.
your story. I like your
Right?
story. Have you got anything like science-wise or like to cite that as a state of disorder?
This
Because
is
if I
not
said
my explanation. This is Quantum Eraser's explanation. He explains a room that gets messier, and as
Yeah,
it
I
gets
understand.
messier, it's never going to come back from that mess. It's never going to reach a lesser entropic
I
state.
understand, but my question is to do with the state of water being in a state of less entropy because it's evaporated. That's the bit I don't think in context, and I'm just wondering if you've got something to support that assertion.
Well, as energy is used, in what context? If you're talking about in a real world context, then you can explain everything in that way because it's happening on Earth and the sun is causing things to happen. But as far as thermodynamics and the laws, when you're creating a test, you can specify the rules of the test. So in Quantum Eraser's explanation, he is in a room where everything gets messier. So he can use that room because the laws of thermodynamics allows you to isolate the test in that room. So I cannot then say, now, wait a minute, that water became a cloud and now I can't leave that room because the test has been limited to that room. And that's why we accept thermodynamics and the higher entropy it creates.
Yeah,
Sure,
but
All right.
it's not. It's not. Sorry, I've just got to make one correction. So it's not a test being performed. It's just a way of explaining a natural law. So there's no test that can validate this, basically.
Yes. Okay. So well, can I just continue? Then?
Yeah.
Well, hang on, no, not really, because
he hasn't made his point yet. Hold on, Anthony.
You don't want me to make my point.
Exactly, he hasn't made his point yet.
Your lawyer speak because you want to understand. You want to see how much I understand.
Okay,
about
both
this.
of you, calm down. Both of you.
No.
It's gonna. Hold on. I don't want it to lose track and focus of the point itself. He's got this far. Let him make the point. He hasn't actually made a point yet.
All right. Quantum Eraser explains thermodynamics as a room that gets messier. The mess is what's considered entropy. The cup of water in the room that evaporates away has achieved entropy or a higher state of disorder. But it's just a parlor trick because thermodynamics, as accepted, are seen as natural laws. Because although everything that has happened in the room is natural, I'm not allowed to leave the room that is breaking down. The room is a universe or a closed system. If I could leave this room, I could point out that the evaporated water that came from the cup in this room is now a cloud in the sky and will come down as water, which is in a lesser state of disorder than the cloud it came from. But the laws don't allow me to go beyond the boundaries of the experiment. Nathan has claimed that space is fake because it violates the laws of thermodynamics. You can't have gas pressure without a container.
Hello, Demon. Just here to troll and play music. Excellent stuff.
Right, struck. Right, can I respond?
All right. No. Nathan has claimed that space is fake because it violates the laws of thermodynamics. You can't have gas pressure without a container, which makes sense to me. We don't know what the sky is. But this is where the problem is. The laws of thermodynamics presuppose that Earth, the sky, and everything in it are achieving entropy, but only because of the breakdown that is happening in Quantum Eraser's room, not because we know what space is. For all we know, water, the clouds, and everything above us is an open system that has been there forever, keeping us in a state of equilibrium. So, if we know space is fake, how do we know what stars are? Why are we presupposing they achieve entropy? The only reason is because thermodynamics work on Earth as we know it, but that doesn't have to mean they work in space. All we know is space is fake. Thermodynamics cancels itself out by proving space is fake. So I am free to state that everything in the sky may not be achieving entropy. Everything there may have just been there forever.
I would agree because these are natural laws and they apply to the natural world. Well, if you're saying that there's a region that is incapable of testing, well, then you can't quantify it. So, yeah, you might find that there is a violation in the sky. Now, that's so true because that is precisely the standard we are laying down to the ballers who make that very assertion. So, you are free to make the assertion that the sky could be a vacuum, but then I'm going to ask you to quantify that by showing a violation of the second law of thermodynamics, which definitely hold true here.
Well, the thermodynamics don't hold true in space because we don't
How
know
do
what's
you
happening
know?
there, right?
Sorry, you're making this assumption.
I'm just saying we don't know.
Well, sorry, I can just take the same stance with you, Earth Flattener. Have you been to this region?
You should take this stance because I come from a place of not knowing. But when someone like Quantum Eraser says thermodynamics proves a creator, that doesn't make sense.
That's a different
because
argument.
We have always
That's
been
a different argument. We're talking. If you want to sidetrack onto that, that's fair enough. I understand, but that's not the argument you and I are currently involved in. We're talking about a region of the sky that none of us are going to. And when you got to the point where you said, "Well, I just don't know. It could be anything." Well, that's why I don't claim dome. I'm not making an assertion about what the sky is, and I can't because I don't know, and I'm willing to say that. But the people who do make a claim about what the sky is, they're the ones that would need to qualify it by violating the second law, which definitely holds true in the physical world where we are.
You're making a claim,
experience.
Nathan. You're making the claim that it doesn't exist. Thank you.
But it doesn't because water is coming
Sorry,
back
that's
from a
called
state of
an
disorder.
argument. Sorry, just got to get Jose on that. That's called an argument from ignorance fallacy. So, Jose, are you saying unicorns don't exist? Prove they don't exist. Prove it right now, Jose.
No, I can't. You just moved the goal.
Excuse me. Prove they don't exist. You're saying they don't exist. Unicorns, according to you, don't exist. Prove they don't. You're making the claim.
I'll prove it.
You're
I'll
making
prove
the
it to you
claim.
right now.
You're making the claim they don't exist. So prove your claim that unicorns don't exist.
Okay. Am I ready to answer the question? I will prove you that they don't exist when you answer me the question that space doesn't exist. Can you prove it?
Yeah, that's my point. That's called an argument from ignorance fallacy. So
Then don't answer the question if you cannot answer.
Oh, right, I'm done, am I, Globehead? Yeah,
Can I
look it up, Jose. Look it up. Argument from ignorance fallacy. So to demand that I make you disprove something is a fallacy. So to say that I'm claiming space doesn't exist, therefore I must prove non-existence, is an argument from ignorance. Okay?
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that thermodynamics should not be seen as laws, and we should not take them because we don't know what space is. We're not that far yet.
Yeah,
They're
but it doesn't
natural
matter.
laws here.
Sorry, not knowing what something is so. Sorry, let me just get this straight. So you've now adopted Jose's argument, an argument from ignorance. So because we don't know what it is, it could potentially violate the second law. I don't care.
Yeah, that's fine. But it
Well,
doesn't mean
it doesn't
that it
change
does or
that the
doesn't.
laws hold true, though, Earth Flattener. That second law, it still holds true, regardless of whether or not it may or may not be violated by a region we're not going to. I couldn't care less. The second law still holds true. Entropy is real.
Then what you added in your housekeeping question, you're pushing this narrative, making people think that space doesn't exist because you want to push this little sector of science and the thermodynamic law, and you're telling people space doesn't exist. So anything related to space, you can throw it to the trash. Go ahead.
Jose,
it
what
doesn't.
evidence have you got for space?
Yeah, so you can prove that we can
I
have...
got no evidence for space. What
Well
evidence
then,
do you got
why?
for
So
space
asking
doesn't
me
seem
to
real?
prove non-existence, I'll say it a third time because Jose's dumb. He's become a baller and suddenly got very thick. That is an argument from ignorance fallacy. I cannot prove non-existence. So to say that I am claiming space is fake, to say I must prove non-existent space is an argument from ignorance. It's also a burden of proof reversal fallacy because you believe in space. So you better damn well prove it or I'll say it's fake and I don't need to disprove non-existence. Okay, Jose?
Okay, so this is an argument from let me tell you, I lost my words. Appeal to authority. You know about the laws of thermodynamics. You didn't invent it. You didn't figure them out. You didn't find out. You just learned it from an experienced person, from somebody, from a citation. Now I appeal to authority that space does exist because I have seen evidence. So you believe in the laws. I believe in the space. We are in the same boat, Nathan.
Sorry, what's your evidence?
Oh, what's your evidence that the law of thermodynamics? Have you make experiments yourself? Have you done it, or are you going by authority? What authority tells you it happened?
No, Jose. I've experienced it firsthand. Hot flows to cold always. Unless, of course...
Have you done this?
I hadn't quite finished, Jose. Unless, of course, you, who assert space this violation of that law, can demonstrate an example, Jose, of that not happening.
Water. Water
Hot
going
flows
into
to
a
cold.
cloud.
What's your observed phenomena, Nathan?
Sorry, I've just said. Hot flows to cold always. That will always happen. You will never show me an example of it not happening.
Okay, now let's go to the hypothesis.
It's not a hypothesis based. This is not scientific. It's a law.
Oh, okay.
A natural law. It happens always.
It happens every time you drink a cup of coffee and it gets cold. It happens every time you let the air out of a balloon. You experience it every day.
So what does this have to do with space?
Okay. Right. I'll explain.
I'm gonna agree. There's, you know what? I'm gonna say there's a barrier. There's a dome. There's the antecedent is a membrane to hold the air pressure in the air we breathe. Now let's talk about the pressure gradients. How can we evidence the pressure gradients? It exists because we can prove the air gradients exist. How can this happen? How can you prove to me
Jose?
how this works?
Yeah. So what, Jose? Sorry, you don't seem to be...
We have a gradient. How do we have the gas pressure?
Yeah, he's already said. No. Jose's just said, we've got a dome. That's Jose's answer. Is that right, Jose? We've got a dome?
Oh, this. I'm just giving you your argument because you don't want to say it. You just held it back.
When do we ever say we have a dome, Jose? How long you been coming here? When did we ever assert a dome?
Oh, you say a membrane, a container. I say a dome. It's the same thing. It's synonymous.
Sorry, no, Jose. I'll maybe say it slowly,
Wow.
just for you this once, because it's directly to you. There is a claim, Jose, that there is a region beyond where we experience called outer space. That claim comes from, guess who? Globeheads, not us. So that's step one. The claim that's being made. Space. Okay, Jose? So let's just get it clear. You... fresh meat globehead have got a religious belief about a region called space that you've never been to. That's the claim. Now, in the face of that claim, not because I'm claiming we've got pictures from the dome, but in the face of your claim that there's a region of a vacuum, I say we have gas pressure. Now, the necessary antecedent is something to press upon. Now, I'm making no claims about what it's pressing on. I've got no clue. But what I do know is we've got this law, the second law of thermodynamics. And that is to say that if it was, as you claim, a vacuum, then the gas would disperse into the vacuum that you claim is outer space. Now, in that process, I need make no claim about what's up there. I'm not claiming I've got photos from up in the sky. You are. I'm not claiming there's a region we can travel through, and if we get close to the speed of light, my mass will contract. You are. I'm not claiming Earth is a ball in this region of a vacuum. You are. So us pointing out that we do have gas pressure, and there is a natural law that says that gas pressure would disperse into a vacuum, those bits are true facts that we can all agree on. Natural laws and gas pressure. Unless you can show otherwise. So if you can defy that law that we all experience and holds true always, then show it me. Because if you can't, you're left with a belief in a region called space that you can't go to and can't exist.
Puerto Rico
Water becomes a gas.
Been there. Thank you.
Water becomes a gas and then comes back down as water. But the only reason I can't state this is because the laws of thermodynamics limit me to that room where the entropy is happening. I cannot leave and then say the clouds.
I don't know what you're going on about with this room. The room is an example of...
It is an example, right, of a closed
Well, you're not limited to an example. You can make new ones. You can explain it however you like. I've not used a room. I've used a cup of coffee.
But ultimately, the entropy is that you are in an enclosed system, whether it's the universe or the Earth or whatever it is. Ultimately, it has to be enclosed. It has to have a limit.
You don't. You can make that claim if you want to. I don't make that claim, though, do I?
I don't believe any of this nonsense.
Why are you making that claim then? I go out of my way to avoid.
States, and you're standing on the side of thermodynamics.
No, the law of thermodynamics holds true.
Except in water.
Sorry, it still holds true in water. Oh my god.
It doesn't.
Really?
Water
okay,
comes
look,
back.
I'm gonna have to round out the live show on that note.
Yeah,
I'm
you
starting
do
to get
that.
frustrated. And
You're wrong.
annoyed. If you think the laws of thermodynamics don't apply to water, then okay, fine, no problem.
Water goes into a cloud and it comes back down as water.
Yeah, that's called the hydrological cycle. Okay, so what? What's your point?
A cloud is less energy
Yes,
than
I've
water.
just said. Let's just round this out for the live audience for Earth Flattener. That's called the hydrological cycle. What's your point?
You can call it whatever you want. To me,
No, it is the hydrological cycle. What's your point?
It's defying entropy is my point.
No, it's not defying entropy. It's a cycle. It's not defying the second law. It's a cycle.
Yes, it is.
Oh, really?
It's a cycle.
It's
yes,
it's
a
just
cycle, but it
hand
defies
wave
entropy.
dismissal. You can call it whatever you like when I define what's actually happening when clouds form.
You're double speaking. You're using double speak. That's what you're doing.
No, sorry. Saying it's the hydrological cycle is not double speak.
That's what's happening.
Yeah, the hydrological cycle.
You're double speaking. You're like, yeah, it's a cycle, but no, it's going from higher to lower entropy, back to higher and back and forth. You can call it a cycle.
That's called a cycle.
I call it a
That's called a cycle.
Thermodynamics.
Oh, really? Well, then you're wrong.
Okay. Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh, right?
Yeah, I've explained that it's a cycle,
boss.
and
Go
you
ask your
keep
boss.
saying, no, it's going
Let's
back
see what
to its
answer
original
is.
state.
Very quantum eraser. Nuh-uh. Got
No,
it.
I'm not. I'm trying to explain it to you, and you've just said you can
You
call
were-
it whatever
you
you
explained
like.
it as a
Oh, now you're
cycle.
talking
That's not an
again.
explanation.
So, okay, maybe if I repeat it, I'll get an actual
Let me do
address
it
to
then,
it.
okay,
It's
dickhead?
called
Right, you know
the
how a water cycle
and now Arwen's helping.
works?
Thanks, Arwen. I really need
know
your
how
help
it
right now.
works?
Desperate
It
for your help,
collects
Arwen.
dust,
Thank you.
and then
Thank you so
dust
much for your
will
help,
come
Arwen.
down.
Thank you. I'm trying to be
Dust,
subtle with
exactly.
you.
Arwen,
Thank you,
That's right.
Arwen.
Without a dust,
Thank
the
you,
rain would
Arwen.
not come
Thanks.
down.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Arwen.
I agree.
Yeah, it's called a cycle, the hydrological cycle. So, what is your address to that? That I can
Well,
call
the
it what I
water-
like?
The water goes, it collects dust, just like Arwen said, and then it comes down on the earth, and earth just keeps cleansing itself, and it goes back into the ocean and back up into the sky, and trees release gases whenever they need more water. We are in a state of equilibrium. Thermodynamics is being defied by water.
No.
It's not a state of equilibrium.
It's
Yes,
a
it is.
It's in
cycle.
constant change. It's not an
He's not listening to me. It's not reaching equilibrium. It's a cycle. Are you ever going to address that you're wrong about this?
I don't think anybody knows. What are you talking
Sorry,
about? What are you
I'll
wrong
say it
about?
again. It's called the hydrological cycle. So maybe you can explain to me where in a cycle we reach equilibrium.
The entire earth as it is, it's...
Sorry,
in an
we're talking about a cup of
equilibrium, as in
water, aren't we, Earth
But
Flattener?
Earth Flattener, we are just talking about water itself, right?
The cup of water in
everything-
your room
everything-
example,
everything
right,
goes
Earth
hand in
Flattener?
hand.
The cup of water that defies the second law of thermodynamics, according to you. That's what we're talking about. So,
Not in a room. Yeah, in a room it doesn't defy it because the room is in an enclosed system.
oh right. So in the room, you've got a, say it again, hydrological cycle occurring.
No.
Oh, so it would be a useful example of an equilibrium being reached then. Just an example.
Yes, well,
it's not the
a
law or the test. It's just an example.
Yes.
So when you compare that example of equilibrium to, fifth time, the hydrological cycle, as a comparison that debunks the second law of thermodynamics, you think you've got a win there, do you?
With water, yes. Water.
Really?
I think water is keeping everything in a state of equilibrium and balance.
Sorry, do you not understand the difference between cycle and balance?
Well, cycle goes back and forth like water.
Oh,
and
right.
clouds,
So
right?
where
Back
you're
into
saying
water.
that the fact it goes back and forth defies the second law, it's actually just sixth time. The hydrological cycle.
Yes.
Oh, so it doesn't defy the second law then?
It does, in that the thermodynamics states that everything is going into a higher state of entropy. So this cycle will not be able to continue according to the law of thermodynamics because everything is generating unusable heat. But I don't think this is actually happening. I think the hydrological cycle is keeping everything in balance.
It's not
You can say
generating
it's not
unusable
all you
heat.
want.
It's not. Things
just
are
nonsense.
changing as it
Yes,
goes.
things are
I've listened to
changing,
this
but
nonsense
eventually
enough.
they're not going to be
I was
able.
going to round it out
Where
before I
does
got
that
annoyed,
come
but
from?
yeah, whatever.
Okay.
With that,
Everything
I'll say
does-
first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this live debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you're watching this on either Nathan Oakley YouTube channel or Nathan Oakley 1980 YouTube channel, stay tuned as you will be privy to the after show. Once again, a massive thank you to all who joined in the live audience. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
If it's at balance, it's just going to remain at balance, at its equilibrium, right? That's what balance would mean. So if we have something like water that's consistently changing its physicality, I guess you could say, how would that be considered? I mean, I guess I see what you mean as far as being everything being in balance as far as the dynamic of the earth itself. Okay, I get that.
Yeah,
but the
that's all
water
I'm saying.
itself, right? But I don't know. Maybe I'm not seeing where.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying is Earth is being kept in balance. We don't know why. And yeah, sure, water is going through cycles and all this, but it is keeping Earth clean. It is keeping the energy here. It's keeping it not too hot, not too cold. And we as
How
a
do you
people.
know? How do you know
Because
it's
we're
keeping
here.
the energy there? How do you know what drives all of this?
Because we're here, and that's.
Oh, so that
Can I-
means
can I
that
make a
everything's
comment?
forever, does it? Because we're
What?
here.
Wait,
that
what?
makes a lot of sense.
Can I
No,
make
wait,
a comment?
What did you say? Yeah, go ahead.
This is Paul. I'd like to make a comment.
Hey, Paul.
The thing about what you're saying is your water is a stabilizing, keeps the temperatures from fluctuating drastically. But there is evidence that, like, the sun is constantly introducing new energy into the system, constantly. Because if without that energy from the sun, everything would become like Antarctica or the Arctic. Everything would freeze over. So we live in a closed system, but without the constant energy giving the heat, the light giving to the earth, we would go into a state of entropy where there would be no usable heat. All of it would be dissipated. So without the sun, there would be none of the cycles that you're talking about would occur.
Yeah. And we don't know what the sun is, right?
Right. But here's the thing about this also. You know, we can only we can only judge the world in which we live, which means we live in this closed system, so we can't make judgments outside this system. So we live in this world and we experience this world, and we have to make judgments about the world that we live in.
Yeah.
So I mean, we see, like Nathan's been saying, that the entropy, you can't have a pressure without a container. We see that every day in everything we encounter.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
And so you said that if the sun wasn't here, then that's what would happen, right? But the sun is here and everything is in balance, and the moon is here too for a reason, right? So what do you think is going to happen for us to achieve a higher state of entropy, or just for it to continue?
I'm sorry, my daughter's in the background, so I apologize for that.
That's all right.
I mean, I don't know how this got into an argument against what Nathan was saying. I don't understand.
Because
that.
it goes against his creationist beliefs. That's why.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't actually.
It bypasses
I
it like a
disagree.
baller bypasses a core argument. That's what it does.
Yeah, you can think you do that,
It's
but
still
you're not.
true. It's still true.
I don't agree.
Close to cold, high pressure to low pressure. It's not changed, and your water example is ridiculous.
As far as we know, it's just as far as we know.
As far
that's
as
all.
we know, yeah. As far as anything we've ever sort of confirmed is real. So if
Which
you want to
is not
speculate
very
about
much.
some magical world
Right?
out there that nobody's ever seen, and it should be different there, that's really nice fantasy.
That's
But
the key.
everything we know is real does not allow it.
That's the key. You cannot say this is what it is because we really don't know. Nobody knows. That's the key. Don't say you know. Don't say this is it and you have to take it. No, it don't have to be A and B only. It could be anything else.
The only reason you're triggered is because you have a belief. There's no need for it.
No,
I'm just
it's
saying
because
we
I'm
don't know.
sick of the same shitty arguments years on end.
I
The
literally
same
don't think
cyclical
anyone has
pattern.
ever said what I've said.
Entropy.
Everyone just keeps talking about R and presuppositions, the same old shit.
Yeah, and you have this weirdo idea that entropy doesn't always work, and it does.
Within what we
does
know.
always work.
It doesn't have to exist in space because space is fake. Space may be keeping us in the state we are in, and we may never change. You don't know that.
Ridiculous! You don't even know
That's
it's
fine.
there.
But
you have
but
no
Flatner, the whole
confirmation it's
problem,
there.
Flatner, the whole problem is that we're being told space is one thing when, from what we know, right? Because all we can know is what we know. From what we know, space cannot exist. That's the
I
whole
agree with
point
that.
of the entropy argument.
I agree with that.
I don't know. Right. So what's the problem? maybe I'm slow today. I don't know.
I got a question for Earth Flightner. I got a question.
Let him answer. Before you ask him, just let him answer.
Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry, answer what?
So what you're basically being asked is what the problem is, and paraphrasing so that you've got something to lead off, your problem is that you feel that Quantum Eraser's use of entropy to prove a creator is incorrect.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Well, stick to that, because you're attacking us on our pulling apart of someone else's claim. So when we pull apart the claim that space is something, the problem with you fighting against that is you end up in the same trap. So you have to make an assertion about what it could be. Well, it might be this. Well, are you putting your name next to that claim? Well, you're saying, no, I'm not putting my name next to that claim. It's like, yeah, me neither. I totally agree with you. You don't know. I don't know. I haven't got the vaguest idea. That's why I don't say dome. I don't know what's up there. But what I do know is if you're going to claim it's a vacuum, it violates the second law. And that's really all that I need to do to debunk their claim of a vacuum of space. But your claim's totally different. So if you want to debunk the creator, fine. Get into the meat and bones of how entropy doesn't prove a creator. Stick with that. I don't know that argument. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
I think that's what was going on. I think
I think there's a conflict.
two different arguments, and you kind of like fuse them both together. And I think that's what it is. Because I know that you understand why entropy negates the space. I know you get that. That's why I'm confused, and I'm trying to ask, where I'm trying to see what direction you're going in this discussion that we're having.
Yeah, I guess mine is strictly about a creator. That's what it's about. I mean, I agree with space is fake, and I agree with everything Nathan has been saying. So,
well, that's why I would make a good moderator. But if you had actually ended up debating John on it, because I'm on the fence. John spends as much time appealing to me on this subject, and I'm like, I don't know. I've made up my mind. And he's like, well, it's proven with this, this, and this, and I'm going, I don't know. Whereas you're on the other side. You're like, this definitely doesn't prove it. So, personally, I think it would be a great discussion, especially if it was formal and you couldn't shout over each other.
Yeah.
Can I ask my question?
Yeah, Paul
Yeah.
Coco.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's just the design of it all and
Let
the
him
way
ask
it
his
fits
question.
isn't
Arwin,
itself
Arwin, come on. Let him ask his question. Arwin, come on.
How do you
Yeah.
overcome entropy? There's only two ways. Like if my house starts to fall down, which is proof of entropy, I have to impose two things into that. I have to impose intelligence, which means I have to, okay, that beam's broken, I got to fix it. Now, how do I fix it? I measure it and I cut it, I do whatever I got to do. I impose intelligence onto that. The same thing with building a car. You know, you take a bunch of random parts from materials all over the world and you bring them together, you impose intelligence on it, and then you impose energy on it to function. The fact that the earth, the world that we live in goes from order, which would seem to have some form of intelligence involved in its production, to less energy, means there's intelligence and energy imposed into the system. That is, to me, one of the strongest arguments for a creator, because you have to have intelligence and you have to have energy introduced for something to function.
Yeah.
How would you address overcoming? I mean, there's no other way to overcome entropy. How would you overcome entropy?
All right. So you use examples in life, like your car and all these things that are happening, which I agree. They are increasing entropy. Everything we as a people are doing are increasing entropy. I think we are the problem, actually. We are creating all this entropy and we're destroying the world in that sense, right?
No, I didn't say we're creating entropy. We're overcoming entropy.
Well, we're creating unusable energy.
But we're also
by creating heat.
Well, we're creating heat, but I mean, we're creating things that function and operate.
Well, but when we create things that are functional and operational, we're using energy and creating heat to make those things. So everything we make creates a higher entropic state. Because we're creating unusable energy, ultimately,
okay, well,
right?
No, I'm not arguing that. I mean, I agree with you, but I'm just saying is how do you overcome, like what Nathan says, the way to overcome from a gas into a vacuum, you've got to impose a membrane of some kind. That has to be something.
I don't think there's a vacuum. I don't believe in a vacuum. I don't believe in any.
I know. I'm just saying is, but even in whether it's a vacuum or whatever it is. Well, I don't know what it is either. I mean,
we don't either. Nobody knows.
So, but I'm saying, but there has to be something that imposed to keep the way things are from dispersing into whatever's out there. You know, so you know what I'm saying? Somebody had to impose the membrane. A membrane had to occur. How did that occur? Whatever, we don't know what that membrane is. I'm not arguing the membrane itself, what it is. I'm just saying something had to impose that to keep things from just falling apart and going out into nowhere.
Well, everything that's happening on Earth, that happens with this cycle, you know, of water and everything, the heat under us, the sun above us, it's all keeping us in this state. So what's wrong with the idea that everything here has always been exactly as it is? I'm not saying people, I'm saying something, because you cannot create energy or destroy it according to the first law, right? So this energy you couldn't have created it, and you cannot destroy it. So I think whatever happens on Earth is using that energy, and it just keeps cycling it. Just like water, the energy is cycling also.
So you're arguing from an infinite regress. Well, that's logically impossible.
Why is that?
Because you'll never reach today.
Yeah, I've heard that before. What do you mean?
Well, there has to be a beginning. It's just logically, it makes logical sense, and there has to be. What's that?
But if we're just in,
is all we gotta do.
Look, like if we're in a phase, like they keep saying, I've even heard Sleeping Warrior say this, that we are in our 7th generation of existence, right? And so what if it's the case that we as people are achieving entropy through the things that we're doing and we're destroying ourselves? So ultimately, when we reach an entropic state where we can no longer exist because we've introduced too many gases and all these things that are happening, we will not be able to do that anymore because we'll be dead. But Earth will continue to go through this water cycle. The sun will continue to go over us and do whatever it's doing, and it will clean Earth and bring it back to a usable state. And that's what it seems to be doing all the time. Whenever particles of dust go into the air and they catch the water to bring down his rain, I think it's just cleaning the earth, because the water just goes down, it goes through the soil, and going through the soil is like cleaning the water, and eventually it goes back into the ocean, and some ocean has salt, so that is cooling, and all these
So where
things
did
are
the water
working
come
together.
from? So where did the water come from?
You cannot create energy nor destroy it. Everything has always just been here. That's what it says, and I don't know.
Oh, really? So where's the energy of the sun coming from then?
See, look.
Yeah.
See, look.
So
I'm
where's
just
the
using.
energy of the sun coming from then?
Arwin, take your shitty and act attitude to your show, bro. Come on, we're the adults having a conversation here, bro. Keep it low.
I'm asking a question.
And I even feel bad about saying, like you ask, where does water come from? And I have to say, well, the first law of thermodynamics states that you cannot create it nor destroy it. I don't even want to say that because we don't know it. And I don't want to appeal to this authority that are the laws of thermodynamics. But if I have to understand you and put a wall toward what you're saying, I have to use these thermodynamics against you, even though ultimately my answer would be, I don't know what we're on. I don't know what's happening. It's just through observations, it seems like we've always been here. To me, it just makes sense. And those are just little examples I can give you, these cycles and all these things I'm talking about. But ultimately we don't know, and we should not appeal to any laws, to anything. That's where I stand,
Well, but I think it's valid for me to appeal to a creator, because I look around me every single day and I see how things are made and how complexity and how energy is introduced and that to me speaks and begs of a creator.
But at the same time, they say there's nothing new under the sun. Like everything seems brand new and fancy, but in the end, everything is just going to become dust again. Everything is just going to become a part of the earth. This casino that I'm in with all these amazing games that do all kinds of crazy stuff, it seems surreal how ingenious it is. But at the end of the day, it just becomes dust and is essentially nothing. It's just something keeping us busy, leading us toward an entropic state where we can no longer exist in. And so the earth is going to cycle again once we're done here and have done whatever we're doing.
Well, you can believe that story if you like.
I don't believe it. I'm saying we don't know.
Flattener. I think the thing you say is we don't know, right? So I think the very fact that you could say we don't know should be reason that you don't, and I don't want to trigger you, but you shouldn't get triggered by the creator aspect because we don't know. You know what I mean?
I'm not getting triggered.
Somebody.
Yeah, sorry.
No. I you know what I mean. Because we know how you feel about this creator subject. We've been down this road before.
Can you not say that word again?
Design.
No, seriously though, there may be a creator. I'm not saying there isn't. There may be. And you guys, I like you guys. I like all the things you say, and I want to be on our side, but if something doesn't make sense to me, it's just, I'm just going to voice my opinion. But there may be a creator.
Oh, that's fine.
But how you're even personifying it? How about just a design? How about everything here, everything, cyclically, pattern-wise, is a design?
Yeah. That's what Leibniz says. The guy that first developed thermodynamics, he said everything was a machine and it's alive and it's being controlled by something. So that is the original thought that sparked thermodynamics, and so that, to me, it doesn't make it so. It's just an idea. To me, it seems that was brought to fruition by an authority that we now have to appeal to. And so what triggers me is not that people say creator, is that they get angry at me for having an alternate idea, right? I want people to just
mad at you.
see where I'm coming from.
If somebody gets mad at you for your idea,
you just think I'm an idiot, Paul. You said, well, you can believe that if you want to, which makes me obviously see that you've not considered what I'm saying. You're just like,
I have considered.
If you don't want to believe,
that's your problem, dude. When Chocolate says that, he means that. And if you're seeing something else in that, then that is on your part.
What is my part?
You're seeing something that's not there.
Okay.
No, I feel like if somebody gets triggered by your position, and that's their bad. Let them get triggered by it. because again, at the end of the day, we all agree we don't know. We can't be certain. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
this is why sometimes this creation argument sometimes is a little weird, you know. To me
Well, here-
personally, I just feel like intelligence can't come from non-intelligence. Like
I agree.
This whole system, this whole dynamic, crazy world we're living in, it all works together. Like
Yeah.
I don't know who figured out how if we breathe out carbon dioxide and trees absorb that and they breathe out oxygen and we and we absorb the oxygen. I mean that works beautifully. You know what I mean? Now,
Yeah.
did that happen by accident?
No,
I
of course
There's a
not.
part of me that really can't say yes, that that's just something that happened. I feel like
How
that
can
was
such a
intelligence.
thing- How can such a thing come into being by accident?
Right. And I don't think it was some guy in heaven sitting on a throne in a cloud. You know, it's something that I don't even think we have the capacity to really visualize,
I have.
you know.
But
Well,
I
yeah.
think it was decided. I think that the designer is all of us, all the consciousness of all living things on the other side that is unbound by time, that just decided this is how it's gonna be. This is gonna be the design.
Yeah,
That's
but
how I think.
this is another part of the
Yeah.
argument because from what I remember in our past discussions, Flatner doesn't really believe that there is a real consciousness, right? Am I right? I don't want to quote you
I don't
wrong.
believe there's a real consciousness.
Well, I mean, like you said, like after death, right? You feel like
yes,
you just
yes.
become like worm food, and that's
Right.
that. There's no
I don't believe in.
consciousness.
I don't believe you lose 21
whatever
grams
makes
and all this stuff.
like whatever makes me and makes you think that just ceases to exist at the moment of physical death.
Yeah, what makes you you is just the electricity happening in your brain, all the neural transmissions that are happening, and your brain is the storage device that's doing it. And once that shuts off, it's off. Yeah.
But then how? I mean, if it works that way, then what is it that makes me and you?
Right.
You know what I
Your
mean?
life
Why aren't we
experience.
why aren't we like just clones of each other and we're all just robots running around? Why are we different?
It's
You know
not
what I
so
mean?
simple, okay? It's just not.
Obviously,
And
it's
people
not that
can
simple,
exist
but-
without their body. I don't know for how long, but I've seen it.
I don't believe
First-hand
that.
experience.
I don't believe that at all.
Well, that's your damn problem because I
Yeah, that's
remember it
fine.
and I
I don't
told
have a problem.
everyone.
That's fine. That's okay.
I
You can
was
believe what
there,
you want.
okay? When my mother died,
I wasn't.
I first saw her in like a spirit. And then a few minutes later, I got word from my brother that she had passed away. Okay?
Yeah.
It's real.
And personally,
That's
I think
real.
personally, I think you were going through this process, or you were repeating the part where she was going to die, and my dad has died.
Oh, really?
So
No, I
did
wasn't.
the
I
same
was
thing.
just worrying. I was
but
just
Arwen,
worrying,
Arwen, see,
figuring
the-
out what the
yeah.
hell am I going to
Arwen.
do with this
All right,
situation.
man.
I wasn't
there's no
expecting
talking
this
to
at
you,
all.
dude.
I didn't
Obviously,
believe
there's no
this
talking to you.
shit.
That's okay.
I didn't believe
Right.
it, and it happened.
Yeah, but Arwen, here's the thing: is that you can tell him it's real as much as you want. Until it's real to him, he can't really accept that unless he just believes you. You know what I mean? He has no proof of that. Now, me,
Wants to
I believe
mistrust
you.
me instead.
Listen.
That's
I believe you because I've seen shit that I know I'm not supposed to see. I've seen people that are not there. So, not to get into that discussion right now, but I believe you because
I'd
of
love to
that.
have
But
that discussion with you once.
yeah,
If
sure.
you want to talk about that shit on my show, awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that serious of a story, but like I'm saying, my point is that I can accept what you're saying because that experience is also my experience. Now, for Earthlander, if he's never experienced that, that can't be real to him. You know what I'm saying?
Just be careful, Chocolate. If you disagree with Arwin a lot, he will yell at you. I mean, he will say he'll punch you in the face. Even though
I'm not
he's a
scared.
tiny guy.
I'm not scared of
and I'm like
Arwen.
6 foot tall, 200 pounds.
Come on,
you know,
Jose.
he's fine.
I'm not scared of
man.
Arwen, man. Why are you trying to cause shit, Jose? What's the matter with you, man?
Sick in the head. Now kicking
Come on,
the
Jose.
ass.
Yeah, like so. That's what I'm saying. Like for you, Arwen, like you can't get mad at Earth Flattener because it's not real to him because that's not his experience.
I'm not
You know.
mad at him.
No, I know, but I mean, you know, Arwen, you get a
I'm being
little.
shouty because I'm just high on energy.
We
Like,
get
this
it. We
might
get it.
weird you out, but when I spoke up like a few minutes ago, I was literally sleeping. And then I heard this shit and I just immediately jumped out of bed towards the mic and just I'm it's like I get tired and then high energy a lot now. It's weird.
Yeah.
But it's not
I mean,
anger, it's just strong.
I agree with Nathan that this discussion would be actually very interesting between Earth Flattener and quantum racing. I think that would
Yeah, and
actually be fucking awesome.
I think it
Yeah,
would
and I'd be willing to
turn
try,
into
but
a
I don't think
fight
it's gonna
really
work.
quickly.
Yeah, it's not gonna
If you
work.
guys
I'm gonna
cannot,
try.
you know, go at each other too hard, but you seem to have some type of internal beef with each other, and I don't know.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, and it's good
but
that we
either way,
keep
I think
talking about it.
Sure, why not?
It's good that we keep talking about it because I understand a little better what I'm saying, you know, and I can communicate it a little bit better as I go along, especially
Yeah,
if I'm
I can see
annoyed.
this is kind of your preparation for it. I get it. You're kind of like training a little bit.
Yeah, but
I see it.
also
I see it.
it's very confusing that people can't even grasp where I'm coming from and just automatically say no, you're an idiot or whatever. You know, it's sad because all I'm trying to do is find the truth. I'm not trying to, you know, create a rift or anything like that, you know.
What if I was to give you some kudos for one aspect of things? And actually, I think the existence, and if your theory is correct, that actually that even itself would give credence to a creator, because if God is timeless, spaceless, all powerful, that exists outside of space time, then then the creation itself would at some level reflect that eternality of God. So in a sense, what's that? I thought someone was going to say something. So there could be an essence that actually the fact that the universe exists, or not the universe, I'm sorry, the globe head kicked in for a second. The world as we know it, there's certain aspects that could be unchanging that actually speaks to the creator, because would be the sustainer, the keeper, the one that maintains it as it is. And I don't know, even as a Christian, which I am one, I have no evidence that there could have been a world before this one. There's some people, and even in the Christian circles, that think there may have been. So there could be a level of that. And even somebody, you know, they were talking about Narnia earlier. Even C.S. Lewis in the Chronicles of Narnia seemed to allude, which he was a Christian apologist, seemed to allude the fact that there might be other worlds out there. So I'm not down with the point that there could be, there would have been a previous world. I don't know, you know. So I don't have a problem with that, even from a Christian perspective. But to me, there's more evidence of a creator than there not being a creator. There's more evidence for it.
Yeah, it's hard for a polar opposite. It's hard for me to understand that.
Or it could be like what Earth Flattener says. Maybe there wasn't a different world before, or a before world. Maybe it was just this world the way it is. Changing, ever so changing, because obviously change is inevitable. But maybe it was just this one world. Like we don't know.
But there is no change, and that's kind of my point. Because if you take Earth and then put a seed in it and a plant comes out, what is more miraculous than that? Is a TV screen that gives you propaganda more important, more advanced than that? I don't think so. So I think
Well, when I say change is inevitable, I don't mean that type of change like we got TVs and we got, you know, satellites and things like that. I mean,
yeah,
change from like, you know, trees die, you know, they'll grow and then they'll die, and you know, at some point maybe a seed will fall and create another tree, and you know, that type of change, you know, the dynamic change.
Do you believe in DNA and seeds and human beings? Earth Flattener?
Yeah, I guess. I mean.
Okay. What is DNA?
I mean, there's three different things, right? You told me DNA. DNA, I've never seen DNA, but they catch people through DNA and blood and all that. I believe in plants and seeds.
Okay, do you believe, so you don't, but you don't, why does one seed create an apple tree and one seed create a peach tree?
Give a man the why and he'll show you a how. And that applies, I think, to everything. So whatever in nature needed to do. And so I guess I gotta say, I believe in evolution of sorts, but it doesn't lead to a singularity. It's not from that. It's just we're in a big pot of stew, and it just keeps stirring, and whatever's being released by it is complementing everything else.
But even in a pot of stew, I mean, if you're using that as an analogy, you put things eventually become so homogenized that everything just breaks down and it's one big glob of nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. So what imposes on that to create it, to get some level of order back into it? And that's been my argument from the beginning. And I guess Quantum Eraser maybe agree or disagree with me on this. There's something has to be imposed to redistribute to cause that to go back into some level of order. So, and I believe there is information inside that seed to say, hey, you're an apple tree, you're a peach tree, you're an orange tree or plum tree or whatever. There's information in that seed to tell it what to become. That information has to come from somewhere. And now, according to what you're saying, is that information is just a randomized constant, like it's a tornado constantly going through a junkyard and eventually either one day producing a car, the next day producing an airplane, the next day producing a boat. And there has to be some kind of information imposed. And that's what I said originally, has to be imposed to make that tree, to make a human being. What makes me different from a monkey is the fact that the information that created me is different than what created a monkey. Now, you can call it DNA, you can call it whatever, but there's something determining what my eye color is, what my height is going to be. There's information that's imposed. And as somebody said earlier, you can't have information without an intelligence. Without an intelligence, you've got to be some form of mind. Now, you can argue what that mind is, and that's another question. And somebody's brought up a consciousness. Maybe we're all a great big mind out there. I don't know if I agree with that, but you still got to be some kind of intelligence mind, which again, go back to a creator again. You see what I'm saying? You can't.
I can. I just keep repeating it. I don't know if anybody's listening, because if I take that stew and eventually it just becomes a burned mess at the bottom, right? Eventually it's going to become a dust, and that dust. And as far as thermodynamics, I'm not allowed to leave that bowl of stew, but I choose to. So that bowl becomes dust and gets blown out of that house, goes up into the sky, gets collected by water, and then comes back down, cleans the earth, and simultaneously introduces new earth to the ground. So everything is just going to this. What?
You're not introducing any new information.
Yeah, but then it's not really cycling, is it? Because at the same time, more dust is created.
Yeah, more
There's
dust
always
is
more
created.
dust coming into being. Where before there's only stone.
Right,
so
right.
There are new stone forming. How is this dust turning back into stone? It's not a perpetual cycle, okay? It's an entropy cycle.
Okay, so this dust that comes back to the earth, and then the water goes into the oceans and then comes back up and then keeps cleaning everything, right? But the reason more dust is being introduced is because we keep using resources. So when we are done with all our resources and have nothing left, we are going to destroy ourselves, life as we know it. But with time and through this cycle of water of bringing the dust back, it's going to bring the dust back into the ocean for use again. And so
that's a good point. Maybe the water will take all these extracted minerals and everything and just through the rocks basically fill up those caverns, those mines again with raw material.
Yeah,
Maybe,
and then the
but we
water.
don't really know that for sure.
No, of course not. Of course not. No, I don't
would
claim
make
to know
kind of
anything.
sense.
I'm a technician at a casino. I don't claim to know these things. I'm just thinking. I'm thinking the way I think about fixing a machine.
That's why I always give Earth Flattener props, because he'll be the first to say, I don't really know, but this is how I feel about it. So
Well,
yeah.
Well, I mean, but even then, he still hasn't answered my question. How is the information? How is the information imposed in the system? Because you keep talking about a cycle, which is fine, but it's creating more entropy. It's creating more disorder. It's creating more processes that doesn't bring.
Yeah, you're not listening. You're not listening.
I am listening.
No, because okay, here's the thing. You said a lot of stuff, so there's a lot of layers that we have to cover, right? The first one would be how the water is bringing everything back into order, which Arwen understood, it seems. So I'm not going to go back to that. If you didn't understand that, I can't do anything about that.
I understood what he said. I just don't understand. You haven't instituted the mechanism that causes that. Just because water, I can pour water through my filter and I can pour water over salt all day long, but that's not going to produce I could take a bunch of earth out of my ground out here and keep pouring water through it, and out of the bottom.
The sun is doing that. The sun is doing it. Everything is doing it.
I'm not done yet. I says I could keep doing that process all day long, and I could let it set out in the sun, do whatever. But when I pour the water through the ground, what's going to produce an airplane? Well, at what point is that going to produce?
Let's go back to the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Let's go to the beginning of it, right? And if you give a man a why, he'll show you a how. And I think this applies to everything. So I think everything has always been here as an energy, right? Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. If you have to listen to the first law of thermodynamics, I don't think there's anything new here. And so if we came from a stew, as they say, then so be it. Because what I'm saying is that everything, life as we know it, we're going to destroy ourselves through entropy and through running out of resources. But eventually Earth is going to reset that, okay? So if we reset that, that doesn't mean those things are gone. The energy that did all these things in the past are still there. They're just scattered about. They're just in a higher entropic state. And as the sun goes over us and does its thing with water and goes through the cycles, and all the dust is brought back into the ocean prepared for use again, then things will spark. Things will start to happen with life again, because all the catalysts to make this happen are still there. And everything just comes together. Just like when you have a tree. If you have an orange tree and you chop a wedge in it and stick a cherry branch in it, the cherry branch will live, right? It'll be able to continue. It's a cocktail tree. And so that's why I don't think that,
Have you ever heard of the concept of irreducible complexity? Have you ever heard that term before? Okay.
No.
This is where I'm coming from. Okay. Did you know a mouse trap is irreducibly complex? A mouse trap, simple latch with a piece of cheese. Mouse trap is an irreducibly complex system. It means if you remove the base, the mouse trap will not work. If you remove the spring, the mouse trap will not work. If you remove the latch, the mouse trap will not work. If you remove the hammer, the mouse trap will not work. Okay. Now you had to have an intelligence to know to put the base, to put the spring, to put the latch, to put the hammer in place for the mousetrap to work. Well, the human system itself, the body itself, is irreducibly complex. Everything, like if you don't have the bones, the muscles will not work. If you don't have the optic nerve, the eye will not work. If you don't have the lens, the eye will not work. If you don't have the sensors on this body, the brain will not sense the world around it, so it technically will not work. You see? So if you don't have hormones in the system body, so if the pituitary gland puts out a hormone, but if you don't have the receptors on the cells, that signal is irrelevant. So the hormone system will not work. The body is irreducibly complex. So you can't. In irreducibly complexity, again, speaks to intelligence. So now, for me to create an airplane, I have to have mechanisms. I have to parts, I have to do certain things for it to function properly. And all those have to come in the right ratios, the right form, the right measurements for that thing to function. What you're telling me is, what I gather from what you're telling me is that if I give it enough time, enough rain, enough cycles in the system, enough sunlight, that the irreducible complex system called the human body will just arise out of this primordial soup. That's what you're saying. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Show me the mechanism in which that can occur. Because when I look at the world around me, when I look at an airplane, which is irreducible complex, when I look at the mousetrap, which is irreducible complex, both of those require a mind and an intelligence to cause them to occur.
Well, I think airplanes and mousetraps are destroying Earth. I don't think you're creating anything. It's just a time waster. It's just to get people from point A to point B to work and do nothing and just destroy ourselves. Okay, right. But people, okay. All right, sorry. So, but people are different, okay? And so I think we happened as necessity. So that's why you have an equally intelligent set of organisms called man of war, Portuguese man of war. Do you know what that is?
I could look it up.
Okay, so it's like a jellyfish and it lives in the water. And it's pretty much like us. It's made up of like 5 organisms, and one acts as a stomach, one acts as a brain, one acts as a protective system. And like it's all of these different organisms that create one thing. So that to me is a sign that things happen out of necessity. So if that man of war was starting to run out of water because we as a people are creating more entropy, thus not allowing water to thrive because we're taking all the dust and putting it on Earth and just messing everything up, putting everything in a higher state of disorder, it makes sense to me that man of war would find a way to thrive because life just wants to thrive, right? But that Portuguese man of war started off as those 5 organisms when life was much simpler, when we were not in the entropic state that we currently are in. But through necessity, that they joined together so that way they could live. And that's the way I think everything works to a microscopic level.
Okay, I'll make it more basic. This is an amoeba, an organism that is a very complex organism, an amoeba, which is even less substantial than the man of war. I know what you are talking about now when you said that. Okay, did you know an amoeba or any kind of bacteria or any kind of germ is irreducibly complex?
Yeah, by the definition you used earlier, yes.
Okay, again, so it goes back to the same argument, which means that something had to bring that about. Because if you don't have the membrane, you can't have the container in which all the internal parts of the organism can function. If you don't have the nucleus of the cell, which is producing the proteins, you can't have the function of the cell. If you don't have the RNA, which translates the information to create different proteins, you can't have the function of the cell. If you don't have the mitochondria, which is the energy producing system within the cell cannot function. If you remove any of those components, if I remove the nucleus, the cell ceases to function. If I remove the membrane, the cell ceases to function. If I remove the mitochondria, the cell ceases to function. If I remove the fact that it produces proteins, the cell ceases to function. Again, where you're saying, according to what you're saying, given enough time, enough cycles in the earth, this little cell is going to come into being. Right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Show me the mechanism.
From everything else.
Show me the mechanism that can accomplish that.
Earth is the mechanism that can accomplish it because
that's not an explanation. You haven't showed me the mechanism. That's just saying, oh, it rains outside. That doesn't show. I can show you. I can go walk in. If you're going to see how an airplane's made, we can go down to the Boeing manufacturer and see how an airplane's made. I can go down and show you a car manufacturer and show you how a car's made. You know, you've got to show me the mechanism, how a cell is made. Just saying Earth doesn't prove anything.
And to me, it does. That's the difference, because if we are eventually going to become extinct, right? But our everything that makes up our bodies, is still going to be here, right? In pieces and pieces. As people, we will be gone. But
because, I mean,
water, as it goes through this cycle, it's going to take all the pieces that we were made up of, and it's going to reintroduce them into the ocean. And the ocean plus the sun creates microbes. And so they're going to start coming together. So everything has just been here. You cannot create matter nor destroy energy nor destroy it.
Okay,
right? So that amoeba will eventually find itself in another form, of course, but it will find itself.
I can go to a warehouse and show you all the parts for an airplane, but that doesn't show you how the airplane, all the parts of the airplane came together to make the airplane. So just because you're saying that, that's a good story and it sounds great, but it doesn't prove anything.
Hello. No, I guess it doesn't. If you want to look at it that way, you can see how. See, when you say a plane is being built, I see that as destruction of the parts of the earth that creates life and allows us to thrive. And you're seeing that as actually creating something that's useful. But in essence, it's not, because it's just leading us to a higher state of disorder, and it's destroying the earth.
I mean, okay, there's a different argument between showing that what we're doing is destroying the planet. It's different.
Yeah, it's not different. All this stuff is the same. That's the problem. We limit ourselves to the ideas of what we understand, and we're not going out of those boundaries. And as so-called flat earthers, we should be allowed to go out of those boundaries. So when I tell you the earth and water rehydrating everything and reintroducing everything, bringing the soup back together, we should be able to say this, and I don't understand why you don't understand it.
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible and this after show possible, and also a massive thank you to all of the audiences in either Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980 channel. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!